I've learned a lot about the technologies from this process. Firstly, I've learned different camera techniques, and I've learned how to kind of keep to the rules of like the 180-degree rule, because when using the 180-degree rule, it helps to keep the thriller opening look professional and look believable, because if you didn't follow the rule, it wouldn't make sense to the viewer and it'd be quite complicated and confusing to watch. In my thriller opening with my group, we used a few match on action shots, which were quite difficult to do because you have to make sure that the timing is right and the shots look correct so they can lead into each other. So that was quite difficult to get. We had to film that a couple of times to ensure that when it came to editing we could just put them together and it would look right. Another technique we used, and I learned in detail, was the shot reverse shot, and that's where it's going from one person who's talking to another. We didn't necessarily use that in our main task because we didn't have any dialogue, but we used that in the prelim task, so I learned quite a few skills from that as well. Also, I learned the different angles, different shots. We used quite a few close-ups in our main task, such as where the male character puts his fist on the table, and we did that to build tension. So from this I learned different techniques on how to build tension and suspense, especially because it's a thriller opening. It has to kind of relate to the genre, and like the conventions of thriller openings include different tension building skills such as the camera work, which helps. Also in editing, we came across a few difficulties in editing. One being that the whole opening is set at night, but a few of our shots were filmed during the daylight because not everyone could stay till about 8 o'clock where it was dark. So we had to film during the day. So a couple of the shots where there was windows in the frame, it was light outside, and that's not correct because obviously it's set in the night time, so continuity would have lost marks. So we asked Sophie, the technician, to help us, and she showed us a way of changing the colour of the windows to make it look darker. It was actually quite difficult because you had to put little dots in each corner of the window, which was quite challenging. We had to do that a couple of times. That took quite a while to do, but as a group we got through that. So we learned how to do that, which is a good technique, and I can use that in media next year. Also, in editing, I learned how to obviously cut the frames, cut the shots, to make it fast, because we wanted it to be quite fast paced. There's a section in our opening where the two characters are running up the stairs, and we wanted the shots to be really fast, so we had to get the timing correct and make sure every single shot was exactly the same. So that was quite difficult to do. So from that we learned how to edit quite quickly and to make sure that all the shots fit together. Also, I learned that the font of the title is actually really important, and it's quite difficult to choose the correct one because we came up with a few different fonts for the title of the thriller, but Marion and Andy said, no, pick another one, that doesn't look right, it's slightly curved, choose another one. So it was actually quite challenging, but we got there in the end, and we've got quite a bold white font now, which is set in the bottom right of the frame, and it actually looks quite effective. So I learned kind of how to sit down and go through different fonts and make sure we pick one that is effective and easy to read and links in with the name of the film, which is Survivor. Also, from this task, technology-wise, I also learned that editing sound, putting sound onto the opening, is actually quite a challenge. We had to go through a lot of music to make sure that it fitted to the actual opening. So we didn't want like rock music or something. We chose music that created tension, suspense. There's like a slower pace music at the beginning and then slightly faster at the end. So we had to go for a lot. And then finally, when we chose the different pieces of music we wanted, we had to make sure it fitted to each section we wanted it to go on, if that makes sense. So that was quite a challenge, and we had to make sure that the volume was at the correct level. It wasn't too loud, it wasn't too quiet. But the lucky thing is we didn't have any speaking. None of the characters were talking. It was only a few different effects, such as the door closing, footsteps, the kettle. So we had to make sure that all of the levels sounded right and one thing wasn't drowning out the other. But yeah, from this task, the main task, I've learned a lot about camera work, editing, sound, the font, and it will definitely help me out next year for our coursework. And yeah,